weather's to be expected. We just grin and fucking bear it. No rainouts here. Okay, fuck her up.
Why are you slapping me?
She's petting you. Dude, she's doing the kitty thing, totally.
Am I a kitty? Give a kiss.
She's patting your butt.
Can I have some sugar right here?
Oh, man.
Can I have some sugar?
Now I smell like fucking rainwater.
No.
Rain sucks. Welcome back, all. We're gonna go ahead and wrap up what we were working on last night when we got cut off for now, and then we'll give you some more good shit later on. But what we wanted to raise was something that Sweetycheeks was speaking about, illusions, and what was it? It was like a string of small things. Like how did you put it? You gotta say it.
I don't remember. You brought up the apple thing. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, but it was a string. It was like the way that you said it was how we have illusions in life, but it's not really one big thing, but more like a string of small things that adds up, that culminate. And remember, you were looking it up on your tablet? You had that cool website. It was like a Wikipedia thing for this.
I have to re-listen to it, but basically, I think you were talking about was it the atheists?
Yeah, we were talking about the atheists. This was like a philosophy thing that you had on your tablet. Remember, it had a whole bunch of different. It was different illusions in life that people think. Something that's like with the racial tension thing, and there was this segment that was speaking about things that are not real that people think are real.
The social contract theory?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't actually read much of it since last night, but
we'll get into that. We'll get into this social contract thing, and Sweetycheeks will go ahead and introduce it as best she can.
I don't read it.
Well, just tell us what you know about it.
I don't know that much about it. The only thing I know about it is that Socrates apparently used this theory of the social contract in a society to explain why, instead of fleeing, he decided to face death and imprisonment instead of fleeing to save his life.
He did?
Yeah.
I didn't know
that.
Yes,
I know. That's why I wanted to read more about it, because it's very weird. It's a weird thing.
We'll do a whole we can do a whole series on that, because it's very
But basically, my thinking of it, and I could be wrong about this, is that it's a series of these unspoken agreements between people that form a society on how everyone is supposed to behave and exchange and communicate and act and
some of them are incorrect, some of them are irrational, some of them are not even real.
But even the sometimes irrational and correct ones do serve a greater purpose and kind of help to make everything a little bit more peaceful and hopefully safe for everyone in said society.
And put forth in ultimate reality that it's likely everything that happens serves a purpose that perhaps we're unaware of, that all of these things have meaning and value and reason, but as spotters, we see the values and we pick apart the reasons and the meanings behind things, the metaphysics of it. As Norianne was speaking of metaphysics, that's what metaphysics would be speaking to, is the causal relationship. The metaphysics is speaking essentially from our perspective, from what I can say, perhaps it's a better description than we have available at the moment. Metaphysics is speaking to the nature of the relationship between value and matter. Or reason and happening.
But the term itself is pretty simple.
Yeah.
above physical.
Yeah, that which is above,
Outside.
behind,
Is
rather.
it outside of or above?
I think it's above, but better to say behind. But ultimately, that what is causal to the nature of reality, what causes physics to be the reason why physics is what it is. Like meta is going to be speaking to the reason, the causal relationship. So, but what I said when we were talking about this is that I raised the thing about the apple, where I did the spot casting video about how when you see the apple, your brain sees the apple and it has an association built in because of religious influences that essentially reminds your brain of the story of the apple in the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve, which there are so many values in place, there are associations and relationships of values in place in that story that essentially kind of have a programming mechanism that's training your brain to be apathetic, training you to feel apathetic, and that's the origin point of religion's story, really. That's essentially placing you in an apathetic, kind of enslaved, victimized kind of mentality, and
ready to sacrifice yourself
right.
for this, grander
and shamed and all of it. That's where it all comes from. But you see that apple and it triggers that, and it reminds you of that. It puts you back in that state, even if you're unaware of it. At a subconscious level, it's going to remind you of that, and that if you don't see the values in play, if it's just subconscious, it's going to activate your subconscious, which again is the operating system of your personality, and so that's what it does. However, that apple is not real.
There is no.
Like, do not try to bend the spoon. Instead, try to realize the truth. The apple is you. There is no apple. There never was an apple. We go ahead and read the Bible, Christians. There never was an apple
Which is
in that
referred
story.
to as fruit.
Yeah, and even in the original Hebrew,
Which is a metaphor, anyways.
right? It probably is a metaphor, or even if it was real, or even if it was a true story. Which I tend to think it might have been to some extent or another. It could be representative of a true story, but I like to think that there's truth to all of it. But the Hebrew word for it, or the original, even before Hebrew word for it, doesn't necessarily mean fruit. It can be translated as fruit, but I'm pretty sure it means something else. So ultimately, just basically that apple is like heavily associated to that. And that's a solid construct in the framework of your reality, is that this apple is the fruit from the Garden of Eden, but that's not real.
So why didn't
Never
it
happened.
why didn't it end up being like a peach or
Right.
some other kind of thing?
There are
That's very
people
weird.
who think that it was something called a doom fruit for some reason. I don't remember why, but
Maybe
I mean,
some
doom
ancient,
fruit.
desert.
Yeah, could have been a different
fruit or something.
story, because I mean that story's all over the place. It's not. Christianity didn't make that story, or it didn't come from them. It came from way before that. All of the stories in the Bible came from way before that. But anyway, that was something neat that we were talking about. But to finish off on the transhumanism thing, I wanted to raise the query for you. My query is if they did make a synthetic you. If they manage to copy, because your chakra system and your brain is tuning like a transceiver that's tuning consciousness and it's making this personality out of it. So if they made a perfect copy of you, what would happen to you? Like, would you experience through it, or would it just be a separate copy that's identical to you? Like, because I mean, that's ultimate. It's tuning the same consciousness and making the same personality. Like, that's really
Well, not
creepy.
necessarily. That you're by posing that hypothetical situation, you're omitting a very grand debate, possibly, or circumstance wherein we need to figure out what and where and who and why and how is the soul. And so I feel like
exactly. I guess that's the concept of it, or the question behind it.
That's too much, though.
Yeah, well, we can do it.
I mean, we can try.
Like we have this concept that there's a soul, and that's the concept backing religion and all cultist influences, is the idea that you have a soul. as if you have this soul. It's something you have, something you own. It's not what you are. It's something separate from you, and it can be tarnished, and it can be shamed, and it can be damaged. That's the concept that's in play with cultism, and that's what allows for them to influence you, because you have this idea in your head that you're carrying some valuable thing that you can damage in some way, and it's not really a part of you. It's something you have, and ultimately, like the idea that this soul goes to, that's the idea behind it. The soul goes to heaven, or the soul goes to hell. They don't say you do, really. They say that your immortal soul does, as though you are not your immortal soul. See, it's just an immediate division between yourself and what you really are.
In some ways, but there's other schools of thought. Who was the Egyptian, the measuring of the heart and the feather?
I don't remember what it's called, but
one of the Egyptian gods that's like waiting for you after you die.
that might have been Taerve, actually.
Determine what happens in your afterlife, that you're measured against the weight of your actions as a living human being or whatever. So there's so many.
I think that might have been Taerve.
Whatever it was, we're not just talking about Christianity. If you want to discuss, transhumanism,
really
that has
quick,
to be a part of the conversation.
Because I guess I didn't think of it that you're not really caught up with what we're working with. So to catch you up, when we talk about, because you haven't thought about this yet. You got this in the first interview we did. You had this problem where you're thinking about spirituality. We're making a clear distinction between modern religion and spirituality. So the elder traditions before that, that's not fitting into the construct of religion. Pretty much I'm positing that religion was invented with biblical scripture, with Christianity, because religion is really a cultist thing. It's like
Absolutely it is, but religion wasn't.
So before that, it wasn't.
It's
not religion. Before that, it was more. But it was spirituality. I mean, you can call it a religion if you want to, but I don't feel that way. I feel there should be a distinction between what we call religion and what we call spirituality.
Well, in the Book of the Dead, there's very specific things.
Yeah, but that's like a traveler's guide. That's telling you what you can and can't do, what you need, what you want to do.
No, it supposedly explains everything that happens after you die. It's very specific shit. That's a religion.
Yeah, I mean, I guess but it's not telling you that you're going to be damned in some way. It's not telling you that you're being judged.
If you are, it's the same thing. If you're an evil person or whatever, then your heart and your actions are weighed against this feather, and then you get.
Right.
It's basically the same thing.
Well,
so
yeah,
religion is as old as
that.
spirituality. There's always been groups of people that needed to be managed and controlled.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm thinking more of like along the lines of practices like Zen and Buddhism and Hinduism, Taoism.
That's a little different.
I'm thinking of those like the Egyptian. That's a religion for sure. The Egyptian. Concept, yeah.
Some of
but
it.
that's where going to be where Christianity had come from. Is that largely? So
kind of, yeah.
They would have to fit in the same category.
Yeah, no, Christianity is definitely a cult, and I think when you.
The bottom line, it's not.
When you use the word spirituality, I think you're using it in a more broad sense.
Yeah, I'm talking about spiritual practice and our traditions, like you're talking about the Egyptian Book of the Dead. I was thinking about the other one. I don't know much. I actually don't know a lot about the Egyptian Book of the Dead. I was thinking of Tibetan, where they just kind of train you to travel the Bardo, traverse the Bardo.
Yeah, maybe that's a different thing. I'm not sure. I just thought of it as an example because it seems very specific, and when you start.
Yeah, that one is. I wasn't
those,
thinking of that. I was thinking of something.
Specific rules. That becomes a religion. That becomes like you're deciding and knowing things that you couldn't possibly know, and that's where the religious control.
And maybe who knows? Because if they did think that, why? Like, did they just make that up, or
somebody did?
Was it something they saw? Maybe because they had experience. They were tripping out. They were using psychedelics. They were traversing what they called the Bardo. They were traversing the void, the never. So, they saw things, they had these ideas, came from somewhere.
They're shamans?
They're shamans would have been.
maybe, and the corresponding modern thing for a shaman would be what, a priest?
Here's one. I guess if we think about, like, do you think that there were gods in the old days? Like, where they talk about gods, do you think that there were beings of this sort that they just made them up, or that there were actual people? Like,
That's a tough one.
'cause,
Well,
I mean, I think there were aliens. It's
that's very
fucking, we have
possible.
that
There's
evidence.
some
I
weird,
think they're aliens.
there's definitely some weird evidence that speaks to different, but people use different words to describe different things, and so, you know, when you look in a book that's thousands of years old, and you see the word God, were they talking about how we're defining?
I don't think so.
The word God, or
I
were
think
they
were talking about the same as like a pharaoh or a king.
Right.
But I think it was. They all say they came from elsewhere. They say they came here, and very specifically, most cultures. Christianity doesn't define it so well because they omitted a lot from the actual original scripture of the Bible. But
because when you get specific, people start asking questions, and they don't want that.
But the Hindu Rig Vedas and such, they're going to describe exactly what happened. The traditions of the Native Americans are going to describe exactly what happened. They're going to tell you that these people came down and
They
shit.
use a lot of metaphors too, like the white bull and the
it's like the ancient. When you go back to the ancient alien show where they try to say that it's a good show, where they try to say that it's pretty much their primitive view on it. Like when they saw something that kind of looked like what they termed to be a snake or a dragon in the sky, that's what they called it, a dragon in the sky, but it was probably machinery, and I think that makes perfect sense. So I mean, and we have evidence suggesting that these people came from elsewhere. We have people saying they came from elsewhere all over the world, so that makes sense to me because I mean, obviously somebody came.
Well, that speaks to the work of Graham Hancock and how he
Graham's kicking ass. Graham's fighting hard.
Fascinated by the weird break in the timeline where it seems like something changed drastically, whether it was for the better or for worse, or technology, or some kind of apocalyptic event, or an extinction event, or whatever the heck it was.
Well, there's
some kind of weird break in the timeline where something changed big time.
Did you see that book that they released? It's a document they released through the FOIA. Is that what it's called?
The Freedom of Information Act.
Yeah. They released this document that was hidden by the CIA. That was a book somebody wrote on the cataclysm, and he described everything that happened. And there were two books actually. One of them they said wasn't really. It was wonky. It didn't really make perfect sense, but it did make some sense. Then the second one made perfect sense, and Einstein backed it, Tesla backed it. They all said this is very likely how it happened. What happened?
Well, we do know there were 6 major extinction events.
Yeah.
So it stands to reason.
And we have evidence that humans were there throughout them.
Weird fossils and footprints and that kind
and
of
crap.
crap.
And we do have remnants. We have remnants from those traditions. What we're going to call pagan traditions are going to have come from pre-cataclysm cultures.
There's a lot of regions that have different stuff, though. So it's
do you think though that they hid it? You think that they hid that, or that they just didn't know?
Probably just didn't know, or it was lost over time. I don't think what would be the purpose of deliberately trying to
I mean, honestly,
hide that information?
I wouldn't want my people to know that they're likely to have a fucking extinction event occur. I would probably try to keep that away. I wouldn't hide it from them, but I wouldn't tell them. Although now I am. I'm telling you, so.
Well, just because there was events in the past doesn't necessarily mean that cycle will repeat itself.
The cycle repeats itself.
Well, but in different ways.
But we are going to change
it
this time. This time we're going to make it fucking through.
Like last night when we were talking about the ceremonies that Jerome was doing on the islands.
Yeah. And that changed
in South America.
That saved our ass already.
To beef up the magnetic field and the Earth's chakra system and how beautiful that was, and it made me wonder if there's other people around the world doing other things like that at that time. That's
what the initiative is. If anybody doesn't know Drumflo Melchizedek, I gave you some links for him in some of the other videos. Go fucking check him out. That's going to be the Reds video. I gave you a link to Drumflo in there. he did this like Sheen probably knows more about it than I do, but he led his own initiative worldwide, went around to several places on the earth, what he considered to be chakras and the planets on the ley lines, and performed these ceremonies that I've told you guys about this before. I didn't give it in detail, but these ceremonies ultimately resulted in the earth developing a stronger magnetic shielding that has protected us from solar events that would have occurred round about 2012. So that's what happened in 2012, was we didn't die, basically.
Thank goodness. Thank goddess.
Alright, so the battery's dying and we probably went over time, so mull that over, guys, and we'll follow up on it again. We'll do another video for you later tonight on different topics. Thank you all for watching. Keelah Salai, Taerve siari, Namasté. Thank you so much, Sweetycheeks. I love you. Bunches and bunches.
See you in hell.